Welcome to my basement, everybody. We have a very special post-summer Game Fest episode to enjoy today. I've got three friends from the video game industry, each of which has never appeared on the show before, and I'm so grateful to all of you for my short notice invitation. Yesterday, I invited them to come in and talk with me about all the things that went down at Summer Game Fest. We've got Jake Baldino from Game Ranks. We've got Brittney Brombacher from What's Good Games, and we've got Kevin Kenson from Kevin Kenson is here, and we are going to talk about our hits and misses from Summer Game Fest. First of all, how is everybody doing? Brittney, how are you doing? Did you have a good time?
I had a fantastic time. Seeing the Veilguard as like one of my last appointments of Summer Game Fest just invigorated me, man. I'm feeling good.
That's awesome. That's what it was like for me seeing Outlaws on my way out of Los Angeles. It was like, whoa, that's a capper. Jake, how are you doing out there?
Good. I just landed. I just got home. So this is like the first time like really unfurling all this information. So I'm excited. If my voice sounds a little raspy, it's because I've been talking for 8 days straight. So
yeah.
I just got my
this
voice
is
back today.
the military debrief right now is what this is. Kevin, Kevin, how was the trip for you, my friend?
I have a slightly easier travel than most because I was not far from where the event was being held. So
You
it's
walked.
had a nice little commute. Exactly. Yeah, well, maybe not walked, but yeah. So I'm mostly recovered now. I kind of crashed a little energy wise yesterday. I was like, no, I'm good. I can keep making videos and I'm gonna do all this stuff. And then I gone
Hit
last
the
night.
wall. You hit the wall.
That
Hit the
was
wall
me.
last night, so
Yeah,
I'm
that was
rested
me for
now.
sure. Okay, well, we have an hour. This could easily be like a 5-hour Kevin Costner opus right now, but it's not going to be that. We're just going to do 1 hour talking about some of our favorite things and some of the things that we wanted to see, maybe some of the disappointments, kind of hits and misses of Summer Game Fest. There was a lot of stuff thrown at us. It was like, the Xbox showcase, which I think we can all agree, pretty good.
Very good.
Pretty freaking amazing. Yeah. Oh, look, we had celebrations. And then we had the Ubisoft Forward event, which wasn't really filled with surprise, but I think we have a pretty good idea of the quality bar that they're hitting with Star Wars Outlaws and Assassin's Creed Shadows, and of course all of the stuff that was unveiled at Summer Game Fest. Brittney, why don't we start with you? Maybe three of your favorite hits. Oh, you don't want me to start with you? I see you shaking.
No, I'm shaking because I'm so excited. I just
cool.
Oh my God, dude. Yeah, the one I saw you at, Dragon Age the Veilguard. That game I was worried, y'all. Like I'm sure we all saw the trailer that debuted at the Xbox press conference. And obviously this is a game that we've all been wanting for so long. The stakes are really high, not just for fans, obviously, but most importantly, BioWare, right? Their reputation as a studio. So when we saw that initial trailer, it reminded me almost of a hero trailer for or a character trailer for a hero shooter, rather.
Yes.
And I don't think the trailer in itself was bad. I just think it was a poor choice as like a re-reveal, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And then once we saw
Didn't have the majesty that we associate with the franchise.
right? Like we want to see what is this game going to look like? What's the tone of it? We're all expecting it to be something dark. So then when we went behind closed doors and actually got an hour, essentially from character creator to the first hour of the game, I was like, oh my God, like why didn't y'all show some of this? Because I think that would have alleviated a lot of the concerns that the community had, because it wasn't good there for a hot 24 hours, right? Until the actual official, or 48 hours, whatever it was. But anyway, after I saw it, like I cried in the theater presentation. I was squealing, I was yelling, I was gasping. I mean, it was everything that I've wanted, right? We're in Min Rathis. We're into Winter Imperium for the first time after hearing it for so long. The tone looks dark. The character models look fantastic. And it's just so nostalgic to be back in this world, even though we didn't get to play. I thought the combat looked fantastic, but I'm sure I'm not the only one who saw it, so I'll stop gushing. But like hands down, my game of the show was Dragon Age the Veilguard.
Oh, wow. Right on. Okay. That's awesome. Well, I'll try to get three of your favorites from each of you, but let's move on to Jake. What was maybe one of your three that really blew you away?
Oh man, can I go for the big one? Star Wars Outlaws? Is that cheating?
You can. Absolutely. Yeah.
Very, very, very happy with what I got to see from what we saw from the Ubisoft presentation, but also with what I got my hands directly on. I went in not sure. I'm very 50-50 with Ubisoft games. I've grown cynical to some of them, but I really like Massive. I love
Yeah.
the worlds they built with The Division. And even if
Me
I'm not
too.
like a big live service multiplayer person, I played those games so much just
Same.
because I love the way they were built, the way they
Would you play
felt.
them solo? I played them
I would
solo and
try.
just had
Yeah.
I
And it
just
was
had a
good.
great
Solo?
time with them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I went into Outlaws hoping that it would feel a little bit different than the standard Ubisoft thing and they would
Yes.
build cool worlds, and they absolutely have.
Yeah.
It's cool. It was so interesting to walk through like a planet like Kijimi from Rise of Skywalker of all
Mm.
movies, and
Hmm.
see NPCs milling about, different like alien races, interiors that you could walk in, street vendors selling food, an R4 unit just like putter by as you're just walking around in this open world. And I was like, wow, we haven't really gotten this type of open world feeling in a
Right.
Star Wars game, and ever, I guess.
And
I
that
mean,
density too, with all of those
yes,
different characters. Like certainly you think about Night City, and you also think about what Starfield did with the kind of, the casino-like planet or whatever. But this had the Star Wars vibe, and it was beautiful.
I was so happy to experience that because like I love the Jedi games, and those, the newer one kind of introduced that open hub planet, but it's still a
Yeah.
Metroidvania. So this felt like real, actual open world type things. And from playing it, I got a little bit more of a sense of the character, the main character. I like
Hmm.
her. The gameplay feels pretty simple. It feels like, pretty straightforward action adventure, but sometimes that's what I want. I just like that like warm blanket of climbing up ledges and running and gunning. But in Star Wars, I've been
Yeah.
chasing that high ever since 1313 was revealed. So this to me
Good
kind of felt
callback.
like the closest thing, which is, I
Yeah.
know that's big. I don't know if they're going to stick the landing, but having played three separate sections that kind of showcased a couple of different things, like an adventure exploration part, a big shootout with stormtroopers, a little bit of speeder chases, a little bit of open world, some ship combat. I was happy.
Me
Does it have
too.
all the
Me
cover
too.
shooter mechanics that the Division has, or is it more open, free ball it?
It's
It
it's a
has
lot
cover
more simple,
mechanics,
but it has
Okay.
but
some, yeah.
the cover mechanics are a little bit like a Gears of War,
Okay.
even with the active reload, and uh, but a lot of beautiful animations and beautiful freeform kind of like stuff just happening, and you're falling off of things, and she looks like she's getting into that same kind of fun trouble that Han Solo would get into. And Jake, you're so right. We've been wanting a game that sort of simplifies it, but gives us these kinds of key Star Wars touchstones for so long, and I think we're getting it. The only thing I wanted was some kind of Cal Kestis and what's her name? Kay Varys?
The KVS,
Oh, Kay Vess. Yeah, Kay Vess
yeah,
and Cal Kestis team up. I would like to
yeah,
see that happen.
that would be
But
cool.
I know slightly different eras. Kevin, what was one thing that you love?
So rather than something that we got a closer look at, I think one of the things that was huge for me that was just a surprise out of nowhere, like something I did not expect at all, uh, was the reveal for Expedition 33. Because there was a lot of stuff
Right.
we saw that were like established franchises or games we already know about that we got updates on. And a lot of that I'm very excited for. I got some other picks,
Hmm.
also for Veilguard because I'm a big Dragon Age fan. But Expedition 33 was, I think, my biggest, like, I actually wish I recorded my reactions to the Xbox showcase, because normally, most of the time when I'm watching showcases and stuff, I'm not actually that reactive of a person. I'm very like, yeah, cool. Like, even when I'm excited, I'm like, all right, great. This is the thing I want. It takes very specific things for me to, like, physically really, like, get out of my chair or whatever. And
Yeah,
that trailer did that. Because it
that's
was not
great.
only, I think it was a excellently designed trailer. The music, the visuals, introducing the concept, Ben Starr narrating it, it just set a whole great mood. And that first minute of it, I was interested. I was already like, okay, yeah, cool. Like, I like this. I want to know more. And one of the thoughts that was in my mind as they were showing some of the early part of the trailer is like, well, I wonder what this is going to be. Is this like a third-person action platformer? Is this going to be a Souls-like? Some of the enemies had that kind of vibe to them a bit. And as I'm having that thought, they reveal that it's a turn-based party RPG, and I like shot out of my chair losing my mind. Because like it's not like that's not a genre that we're like seeing a lack of necessarily, but for the most part, I mean, all the major ones, they're either trying to hail back to a very retro aesthetic. You got stuff like
Right.
Octopath Traveler, which I also love, or you're going more on kind of the animated aspect, things like, what Sega Atlas does with SMT and Persona. And it's been a while since we had a larger budget looking turn-based party RPG that has that kind of gloss to it. I think I'm sure I'm forgetting something and someone will comment like, oh, you didn't think about this one, but like Lost Odyssey is the last game I can think
knew
of
you
that
were gonna
really
say
gave
that.
me
Yep.
that feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like
Yep,
maybe
same.
Resonance of Fate also, but that was a weird, like there's motion controls and doing guns and stuff. Like Lost Odyssey is the last game that scratched that itch. And there's almost that tiny voice in the back of your head that's like, hey, this is kind of what Final Fantasy could have been in an alternate timeline. Like we
Right.
could be seeing more like that style.
Right.
And I actually didn't realize how much I missed that look and feeling. And I generally, when I talk to people, I like to be like, yeah, like I like beautiful looking, high polished games, but visuals aren't everything to me. I art direction and stuff. And as long as the gameplay is good, I'm happy. But it's been so long since something looked like that for that genre that it just sparked something in me immediately that I didn't realize I was missing as much as I did.
The premise of that game, right? So you have the paintress. This is the one, right,
Yeah.
where she paints the number like on a rock or something.
Yeah.
And everyone who is that age disappears. They like disappear into a cloud of smoke and they assuming that they die. And every year she goes 1 year lower.
Yes.
I think
awesome.
that's really cool. That's why I'm like, oh, that's an interesting story.
It's a super neat premise. And visually, I mean, just the art direction and design, like it's not just that it's, sure, it's more realistic looking people, but the environments they're in are certainly not. Yeah, just a massive pleasant surprise. Ben Star's just a bonus on top of all that.
Oh yeah, always.
I definitely want to see more of the actual game for like whether or not I'm hyped for it, but the trailer itself did its job. Just masterclass work.
It stood out in that unbelievably packed Xbox showcase, which is, that's something to say about that experience. All right, Brittney, let's get a game that you were kind of hoping for or expecting or something that just didn't hit for you. So like kind of a miss that you had at SGF. Was there anything or did you come away pretty stoked about everything?
Honestly, like I was thinking about that. I don't think I played anything that didn't tickle my fancy, if you will. Everything that I saw, obviously, we get all these emails and they're like, hey, see our games. So I'm very particular about the ones that I do want to see.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, I always want to see some sort of Resident Evil announcement. Jake, I know you're with me on that one. I know there were a lot of rumors that were pretty rampant leading up to this, and they kind of got pulled back. So it would have been nice to have seen something like that. But honestly, like I can't think of anything that disappointed me at Summer Game Fest.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Jake, how about yourself?
This is a little bit of a weird one, but Fable. We got to see more Fable.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Okay.
But I still don't know what it is or when it's coming. So in the grand scheme of things, this doesn't matter too much. But in like of that moment, disappointment, I wanted to finally know more. I was hoping this is the year we'd really see what it actually was. I still don't know if I'm creating my own character, what type of game it really truly is. I trust in that team. I really am so excited to see what they do, but I just wanted to see something, man. And then I mean the same, you can even say the same for something like State of Decay 3, where it's like we technically saw more. It's still around, but we still don't quite know what exactly it is.
Yeah.
And do we know when it is? Do we know when State of Decay 3 is coming? Do we just get a year?
I don't believe
Google.
so.
Yeah, I don't think
we had a lot that were just like years. Yeah, years or nothing.
Yeah, a lot of those.
Yeah.
We only had a couple specific dates.
I'm wondering, like with a showcase like Xbox had, if there is discussion amongst the teams about how much to reveal. Like it's not just create a project or a trailer to represent your key thing, but it's like, how does it stack product wise? How do we get the bang? I don't know. I don't know if they orchestrate like that. Yeah. But somehow the orchestration on that showcase was amazing because we did get some gameplay and then we got some CG trailers but all the sort of emotional ride that we went on was pretty phenomenal. And I don't know if they looked at something like Fable and said, you know what, maybe we don't want it to reveal too much right now because we're really teasing Perfect Dark. So we're going to give a little bit more on Perfect Dark and we're going to hold a little bit back on Fable. I don't know. I mean, I'm just speculating right now.
Yeah.
No, I mean, that's a really good point, Jake. I'm glad you brought that up because State of Decay, man, that game was announced 4 years ago, and we haven't really. I think we got like a few glimpses of gameplay with no UI, so it's sort of hard to tell. Makes you kind of wonder what the state of that is. But according to Xbox Wire, it just says the team is hard at work at the game, more to share at a later date around co-op customization and more.
It's also harder, I think, to shock us with zombie stuff. Any zombie CG thing is like, oh, okay. Yeah, like I can't wait to play that game. I think that's the value of State of Decay is actually feeling, the terror and trying to, build all the stuff that you can do. It's going to be incredible when they get all of the pieces together. But
Yeah.
Kevin, let's move over to you, my friend. Was there something that were sort of bummed you didn't get to see, or you were hoping for, or you didn't like?
Yeah, I mean, didn't like. I feel like I would just be harping on the same point Jake brought up because I agree the Fable trailer was very much like it was a good trailer in and of itself, but it was kind of
Yeah,
like it was a new trailer, but it was also kind of the same trailer as last year as far as what it told
incremental.
us and what we saw.
Yeah,
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 exactly. So it was very.
yeah.
I kind of wanted to see more from that. Something I was hoping to see, and this isn't something that I thought we were going to, or at least not in the sense of like, oh, 100% it's happening. But while we did have a good showing from Bethesda at Xbox, there have been so many rumors and leaks and talks in regards to remaster work with some of their older titles, and I was really hoping that something would show up. There's been talk of things like an Oblivion remaster or Fallout 3, and especially with I feel like this is a big year for Fallout to kind of come back into people's minds after
Yes.
the success of the show. 76 is seeing a whole bunch of additional, new players, and a lot of people are like, "Oh wait, this game's good because it had a rough launch and it's recovered from it now, and people are learning that." And so I was really hoping that if the Fallout 3 remaster or remake, I don't know what exact terming they're using for it right now. If that is like a real thing happening, I was hoping maybe it would show up this year because now is the time to capitalize on the hype for that franchise and to get more people invested in like, hey, not only did you enjoy the show, here's more stuff on the way to be excited for. And
Yes.
so, overall, fantastic showcase again. Like I think Xbox knocked it out of the park, but that was something that I just in the back of my mind was hoping to see. I'm a big fan, especially of the older Bethesda stuff, and just wasn't there.
We really got a sense from that showcase. This was the ultimate flex, wasn't it? This was the Xbox stepping up and saying, "Yep, we bought everything, and this is what that means."
This was the year
Yeah.
to do it because I mean, as part of Summer Games Fest, I enjoyed that showcase overall, and I loved the love that it gave to indies. But even Jeff himself was kind of doing the soft pitch with it a little, being like, we're
Yeah.
kind of between stuff right now. We don't have a one more thing this year. It's a little
Right.
slower. PlayStation had their state of play, and it had some good stuff, but definitely was not one of the more well-received ones. They
Yes.
also made a little pop-up at SGF with Lego Horizon, but this was kind of a slower year for a lot of other people. Nintendo might come out with some bangers in another week or two whenever their June Direct is, but right now, those were solid but weaker showcases. So Xbox really had the opportunity to make this one count, and they did.
Yeah, they absolutely did. The Summer Game Fest live show, it was an interesting one because it did tease a lot of kind of smaller scale games. And I think that there was, like a real buildup of excitement. At the beginning, actually was hitting with some pretty big things. And then it started you could feel the energy start to drift out of the video. And I wasn't in the room, but I don't know if it felt like some of the energy was drifting out of the room. But I think in contrast to that, it was really cool to play a bunch of those titles on the floor, and some of them really surprised, like some of the indie titles. I played a game called Bounty Star, I think it was, where you have this mech that you're cruising around in, and I just love this idea. You're kind of like a farmer, and you're growing things, and then to protect your farm, you have to jump into this mech suit and then go and get some bounties and kill some of the threats that are out there. Some of them are robotic and some of them are organic, and it's very cartoony. I think it was made by like a tiny little team. Annapurna was making it, I think, or they're publishing. But I was really impressed by that, and there were a bunch of other little ones. It was incredible to play Replaced. I don't know if you guys got hands on with that.
I didn't.
Oh, it was so good.
That was
See,
the one
that's
I
the thing.
yeah.
That's why we had to do this. And I'm so glad that you three could be here because you're all experts in this. There was no way for one of us, any one of us to see everything and play everything.
Yeah.
But Replaced was incredible. And it is like this unbelievably astute, combination of Blade Runner and Flashback and a little Limbo all in one thing. And like even when you're getting into battle, you see the camera kind of pivoting and shaking and stuff, and it just adds this, I don't know, this visceral sort of kineticism to it. You just feel what your character is feeling, even though it's a 2D kind of implementation and everything. It's stunning.
I love
I'm
that so
really,
much.
really psyched for that.
I'm really lately been into like the quirky games, like the games that just take a bunch of genres or whatever and mash them into one, and you just see
Yeah.
what you get. I'm not trying to say I have AAA burnout because I don't, but after a
Yep.
while, those games can get kind of formulaic. So it's really cool to be able to see what ideas people can come up with. I just want to say real quick too, Rita's Revenge Power Rangers, that game came
Yes.
out of
Dude,
nowhere
yes.
for
Oh
me.
my God.
Yes.
Yes.
You want to
Yeah.
talk about a hype ass moment in that theater presentation?
That
Because
got
I was
me.
there, man. It was the best.
Peak trailer.
Yeah.
That's
Oh,
a Shredder's Revenge type surprise, right? I remember the Shredder's Revenge reveal. I think it was in a PlayStation event or something, and I it was part of a collection of other huge things. And then here comes the Shredder's Revenge 16-bit game. It's like, oh my God! I feel like the Power Rangers just had that. And what I love is that it's Mike Micah's group and Digital Eclipse. Like that team is just they deliver
They know what they're
all the
doing.
time. Yeah, they
Yeah.
know what they're doing, and they're just like curating these classic moments and these classic things for us. And I love what those guys do. So I'm so
and
happy
in
they're
such
having
a cool modern way, because at
Yes.
first you have like your little style, like beat 'em up, whatever. Then you're seeing like a roller coaster level, and then you're seeing these other ones that explore different dimensions that you're going in. It's like, I want it. That's my Power Rangers, the 90s.
I love it.
Same.
And I think, following up on what you were talking about, the Dragon Age trailer, I think you're right. I think we do, because games like the original Dragon Age trilogy, or the original Dragon Age titles were so influential. They've just been lifted on from so many different projects. And so it's interesting that these, multi-decade platform, these IP come back with something new, but their stuff has been bitten off by so many other companies out there that it just doesn't have that same allure. And that's a tricky needle to thread for these companies as they're working on their marketing, is how do you bring something back and make it feel totally fresh when so many people have ripped this off over time like that?
You make a Baldur's Gate 3. That's what you do.
Yep.
Come Larian Studios.
Well,
And you
well,
perfect
and
it.
Easy. That's easy.
That's actually
Yeah.
the interesting thing about the Dragon Age thing too, is that like, because no one really knew what state this game was in after so long. I mean, it's been a decade. It's been restarted a couple times.
Yeah.
The timing is actually almost unfortunate in some ways, because I feel like we're entering this little renaissance where people are remembering that the older kind of turn party-based stuff can work and be very fun. Baldur's Gate has brought it back to attention. And then, don't get me wrong, I'm very excited for Veilguard, and I do like what I've seen, but I absolutely know that some reaction to the gameplay has been like, I was kind of hoping it would still be the team, controlling everyone and actually tactically thinking it out. And it's like, nope, we're going full action RPG hybrid.
Yeah,
now.
they're staying with action. Yeah.
It is, and more so, it's really like Mass Effect levels of like, you just control your character, you can just cue some commands.
I think that
again,
there is
Yeah,
and I think what happens with these teams is that they want to push themselves as well, right? If they're going back and making sequels, they want to distinguish one from the other and give your players a little bit more agency. And I think it's like a grass is always greener, right? They're building something, and they look. I mean, we've seen that happen with the Final Fantasy experiences as well, right? I'm sure they're thinking, there's a way to bring more people in. If you want the classic stuff, you got the classic stuff. Plus, I think when you're talking about iterations like this and sequels like this, you're probably planning vertical integration across a bunch of different genres and sort of crossing streams in a bunch of different ways. You're thinking that far ahead and investing that far ahead.
And especially in BioWare's case, I think there's a little bit of a Ship of Theseus thing where there are people still around from the very beginning, but the overall team has shifted quite a bit. And so there is also that balance of, I'm actually very excited for the new direction, because I feel like even more so than some of the middle releases, there's a unified vision here. And I want them to make their best version of Dragon Age, even if it's not what some of the old school fans necessarily are yelling for.
Oh yeah. I feel like you and I, Kevin, could have a whole conversation. Like we could hijack this entire podcast, because I have so many thoughts, and I totally agree with you. But alas.
Let's hop on later. I'm down. I want to talk to more people about this a ton.
We will circle back on a separate Dragon Age podcast. That would be incredible. Jake, what was something else that you played, or something else that rocked your world at SGF?
This is a short and sweet one. But the announcement of Civilization 7. I know I just said with Fable, I'm like, I didn't see enough and I was disappointed. But with something like this, it's just the announcement that it exists and it's coming. So just to know that that was the one where I was like applauding. I was like, yes. Yeah, I know it had leaked like a little earlier or something, but like I didn't catch that. So I got like good surprise. And
Good for
I just
you,
love those
man.
games, man. And to see it
I
get
love
like
that you're
that center
surprised
stage.
by Civ 7.
I know, right? Like it was coming eventually at some point. Yeah, I don't
It
know.
was great
I
to
love
see
them.
Sid, though. It was great to see Sid out there talking about the game,
Exactly.
right?
Like
Yeah.
have the goat there, you know,
Yeah.
and that we know nothing about it, but I'm happy it's coming because those games are an addiction for me.
Oh, yeah.
It's so
Absolutely.
special too when you can get surprised anymore,
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. Oh,
by
I live
these
for it.
announcements. Yeah, like I think about
Well,
Resident Evil
Perfect
2.
Dark.
Okay, Perfect
Yeah.
Dark. Yeah, but I
Yeah.
even think back to like when Resident Evil 7 was announced, or Village,
Right.
excuse me. And I was like, oh my God, like what just no, not Village. Jake, what was the 7? I guess it was 7.
Yeah, it's a 7.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
at the
Biohazard,
PlayStation
yeah.
Showcase. Yeah. And I mean, I wasn't expecting that one, or even when the RE2 remake was announced, just like those
Yeah,
hype
same.
moments.
Like
It's like you don't get those anymore because the leaks happen and it's our job to follow them and talk about them. So I'm
Yep.
happy that you were surprised by something. That's just doesn't
thank you.
happen
It
that
felt
much
good.
anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah. Batman wasn't announced. The Arkham VR wasn't
Oh,
announced
man.
here. And that was like we knew about that for a year ago. Like people leaked that too, which
Yeah.
sucks, man. Because that would have been an amazing surprise. I guess you have to pay attention, but if you do, it filters around everywhere. And I think it's been like a year that we've known that Camouflage is working on that. And we still don't know what it's going to be and how they're going to implement it. I've only seen some screenshots kind of showing how you're going to get into the surrounded by villains kind of combat that we expect out of Arkham. But those guys are so freaking good over there. I don't know if you guys played the Iron Man VR game, but
It
they
was
did
so
an
good.
amazing job. It was so
Yeah.
good. Yeah, unbelievably good. Kevin, you got another one?
I do. I actually want to touch on one thing real quick though, just because in regards to like the leaks and affecting, announcements and stuff, because I had nothing about. I love when that accidentally works in reverse. And a great example of that was Xbox, where everyone knew we were getting a Gears reveal, but everyone was assuming Gear 6, Gear 6, Gear 6.
Yeah.
And then we see young Marcus, we see
Oh,
Dom.
yeah.
They play with
Yeah.
our heartstrings and put
Ugh.
Mad World in the background. It worked so well as a surprise because we knew we were getting Gears, but I don't think anyone expected it to be that specifically we were
No.
getting,
No.
And so that was, it's great when leaks work against the hype that way.
I like the clapback, against the idea that it was all CG as well. I love that Coalition people were out there saying, nope, these are in-game renders and this is what the game is going to look like. I mean, Jesus, when you look at what Gears 5 looked like and then it, was refreshed, that was just a gorgeous, gorgeous experience. I cannot wait to see this game in action. I think it's just going to blow our freaking minds.
People making a big deal about the in-game cinematics, claiming that it wasn't in engine. Is that what was going on?
Yeah, I hate to throw
Why
Jeff under the bus, but
way?
Jeff said that it's only a CG trailer, and then he had one of the Coalition tech art people say, actually, you did one of those and said, nope, this is using the in-game assets. Yeah,
I thought it was the internet being the internet, and I was like, just appreciate a good reveal trailer, you fools. But
I think most people did. Did. But I get it when there is an exhaustion on the CG, because games are looking so close to what I've been marketed. People have been marketing CG trailers to me for so goddamn long, and now we're playing games that look better than all of these dreams, these ideas of where we could go. So I think we expect all
Gears,
that.
it was one of the first times I very rarely push back, but I had just tweeted my excitement about it, and someone was like, they duped you. And I was like, I know what Gears of War is going to look like. I can assume roughly what the next Gears of War game is going to be. I am allowed to be excited about these characters coming back. And it seems also like I got to speak to the Coalition a little bit after the fact, and they are excited specifically because they're doing a straightforward, pretty linear adventure.
Of War is back.
Yeah, the Of War is back. They're revisiting these characters. There's a lot of stuff they can do with that lore-wise. And they're excited to kind of they literally used again they use the words again, excuse me. Spooky, dark and gritty.
Right.
And I was like, I'm all in. Thank you guys.
That sounds great.
Good to be
That's going to
back.
be amazing. Well, let's talk about Perfect Dark here for a second,
Yeah.
because that could have been the mic drop moment for the whole weekend in a way, and it was the midpoint of the Xbox showcase, which still blows my freaking mind. Are all three of you big Perfect Dark fans from the N64 days, or are you
I
kind of meh
never
on it?
played Perfect Dark, so this is all new
Never
to
played
me.
it, Brittany.
Never
How
played
about
it.
you,
Yep.
Kevin?
I
You played it?
also missed that train, actually.
You did.
Yeah,
Okay.
all of my FPS time on N64 was GoldenEye. I just didn't ever get Perfect Dark growing up, and I have not made the time to go back, which I
Yeah.
might be regretting.
What about you, Jake?
Played it at a friend's house a lot, liked it enough to then eventually pick up Perfect Dark Zero and try and
Yep.
like force myself to love it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, this was my thinking on Perfect Dark, because we've had so much time pass since it was, truly that mind-blowing product back then. That N64 level up. And in a way, it was kind of like throwing the gauntlet before the transition to the original Xbox and Halo. But kind of showing what first-person shooters could be on a console, taking the GoldenEye aesthetics and the GoldenEye kind of design philosophies to the nth degree. And it was really profound being there covering it when all of that stuff came out. It was really mind blowing. I am a lifer, but I don't know if the whole crowd is. I don't know if the modern player is as attuned to it as somebody that's been playing for as long as I have. What did you guys think? Kevin, let's start with you. What did you think of the Perfect Dark trailer? And now what is your excitement level for this game?
My excitement level, I would say I am optimistic overall. Like I liked what I saw. The pacing, I think, was pretty solid as far as, okay, we're actually showing it. And again, like, I don't think we really expected to see gameplay to that length. And it was one of the longer segments. I want to say that
Yes.
might have been one of
Yes.
the longest gameplay segments they did, or at least snippets of what looked to be, captured gameplay, even if it is cut up and edited. But seeing a lot of it in motion, I think that one of the things that really stood out for me, again, I missed the boat when the original one was relevant, but I always enjoy me some first-person parkour. And so the
Yeah.
kind of the traversal aspects of it mixed in, and then seeing ways to, I'm a big sucker for, like, it's weird. I don't really love multiplayer FPS, but I love single player campaign FPS stuff. And so seeing the way that the level design is incorporated with that, with things like, the seeing through walls and being able to figure out, like, where enemies are coming from and set up for anticipating them. I liked what I saw overall, for sure.
Yeah,
Awesome.
I would say the same for me. I say it looked good. I'm optimistic. I think I want to be more sold on Joanna. That's her name, right? Joanna.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about her as a character, and I know, like, that trailer probably wasn't for me. It was probably more of the lifers like you, Victor, who know exactly what you're looking at and like what you would want in a remake. But I think I want to be told more about what's the story of this. What am I trying to do? Because narrative to me is really important when I'm playing a single player campaign game. I'm more of a narrative than gameplay kind of person. So cool. I've seen enough where I'm like, all right, I want to know more, and then I'll be able to decide. Because it's so hard to pick the games that you want to spend your time with these days because there's so many.
Yes, and so many of them that don't end.
They never end. No, dude, right?
Yeah. Jake, what did you think of the Perfect Dark reveal?
I think my first reaction was just like, wow, they're like, it felt fresh, it felt different, and it felt like they were going all in on spy. I was like, wow, this is a spy game. And also, I didn't expect to see it anytime soon. It seems like they had been working on this for so long. You hear about things back and forth that they're still working on it, things are going on. So to see it like fully flexed here, it was pretty interesting. It seems very flashy and crazy. I almost am like, is this real? Like, I almost got like that like Killzone 2 trailer feeling, not to that extreme, but I just like that it's trying to realize the spy thing, like Joanna Dark, the spy, not just a first person shooter. The fact that it has almost immersive sim vibes to it is interesting. And it's interesting that they got this big studio to do this, considering they also just shut down Arcane, or a part of Arcane. It's kind of, obviously, business is complicated and I don't understand it, but yeah, just very interesting. Either way, though, I think it's cool to see Perfect Dark return, but also kind of blossom into a thing that would excite people seeing it at face value who never played the old games.
Yeah, it has to be a reboot of some kind. It has to
Yeah.
be kind of like we need to feel they need to tell us who she is. There's a whole audience out there that needs to kind of be informed. It's been way too long. And Perfect Dark Zero was a major disappointment coming off of what the Rare team built on the original Perfect Dark experience. So it's going to be cool to see it come together. But I think the most exciting thing is Crystal Dynamics playing with so much single player content because that company is amazing at sort of narrative focused action, like they've done incredible work with the Tomb Raider franchise. I actually like the single player stuff that they put into the Avengers experience. And I was kind of bummed out that they weren't able to kind of make another one so they could really tune it. But I'm very excited to see their sort of technical contributions to how Perfect Dark kind of shapes up. But I think there's also some similarities in the world's reaction to Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. I'm the world's biggest indie fan, so it's like Christmas for me that this thing is coming out this year. Same with Batman. But Brittney, are you excited? And are you an indie fan? Do you think that the game looks like your kind of game? What are your thoughts on Indiana Jones?
So yeah, like I'm such a lame-o for these past two conversations, but yeah, like Indiana Jones, I'll watch him casually, but like that's as far as it goes for me. But I feel like when you have an IP and just that's known for being as charming as Indiana Jones, I don't really have to be sold on it. Look at the studio making it, look at the legacy of it. Like I see that and I'm like, okay, yes, I'm going to play that. Whereas like we were just talking about Perfect Dark, it's like I need to know more about that before I want to spend my time with it. But I mean, that trailer was hilarious. I enjoyed it. That was great.
Awesome. Jake, are you fired up for Indy?
Yeah, I like Indiana Jones. I'm a bit more casual with it, but I've been in love with it ever since I saw Temple of Doom first, which kind of skewed things for me a little bit.
Chronological order,
Yeah. But I thought this showing of it was really interesting because it didn't really show a lot of gameplay. It was essentially a big long cutscene, which sometimes makes you go, uh-oh, or that's weird. But here, I feel like it wasn't like designed for the perfect like a customer like you, Vic, where it's like, hey, you're getting more Indiana Jones. You're getting another adventure. We're so proud of like how we put this together. A monologuing goofy Nazi, a companion, people falling down, a grenade, a sudden grenade surprise, like all this adventurous stuff, all this Indiana Jones stuff. Clearly, Troy Baker doing a really good job.
He's nailing it.
Yes.
That I think that they were confident in that, and they were like, let's just show him this because people want more Indiana Jones. Obviously.
Well, I think the big complaints was that the first reveal, there was a big emphasis on the first person aspects of it and telling us over and over again that we are Indiana Jones. And I think a lot of people were like, no, we want to see him. I think everybody expects it to be a Nathan Drake-like experience.
Yeah.
And this time they really showed the third person model. They showed the story beats to show that off. Kevin, what are your thoughts? Are you psyched for Indy?
I am very excited for it. And I agree. I think the big point of this particular trailer was to sell that this is Indiana Jones, right? Like they're making sure that like we're trying to really capture the spirit of it. We're trying to have some cinematography that lines up with what you would see in films. Here's Troy Baker doing a great job channeling Harrison Ford as best as he can. And I think it did a good job on that front. I will agree that gameplay wise, I'm very curious to see what extended gameplay looks like, because they did that developer direct and we did see bits and pieces of the first person gameplay. But one of the things that's very curious to me, Indiana Jones, helped spawn a few inspired franchises, Uncharted being one of them. And Uncharted is, I think, the game very responsible for giving us the fun discussion topic of ludonarrative dissonance, where it's this fun, campy action adventure, and then Nathan just killed like 500 people.
Yes.
And Machine Games, historically, I mean, they do great action set pieces in their games. Wolfenstein has some of my favorite levels where you're just taking people out left and right. And I'm not sure how that's going to translate over to Indiana Jones. Because, like, indies killed people in movies. It's happened. There's the gun scene with the...
Dude, they're happens. Nazis. We got to kill them.
For sure. But, like, how many, right? Like, what do the action parts of that game look like as far as... Is it all just kind of stealth and you take a few guys out here and there? Or are we going to have those moments where he picks up an assault rifle nearby and you're going through 40 people? Like, I'm very curious because that doesn't feel like Indiana Jones, right? That aspect. It's usually a little more personal.
Yeah, he's not BJ Blazkowicz. He's
exactly. So I'm a little. I want to see more of what that extended gameplay looks like in that essence. I think they did a great job of pitching that this gives it Indiana Jones feeling in its storytelling. I'm just still curious to see what it looks like inhabiting him, via gameplay.
Gotcha.
Maybe he just smacks people with his whip. Just
a quick pop.
Just a little
It is the ultimate
Grabs him by the
weapon.
neck, hangs
Yeah.
him. Takes a little bit of time. It's kind of like
Whip.
Jigsaw. It's just taking people out. Okay, Brittney, give us another one that blew you away or that you're super stoked for.
Oh God, there's a few. I think I want to talk about Astrobot though, because
Oh,
yeah.
Please tell me.
Did everyone get to play it?
No.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Who didn't?
Tell
Jake
me, please.
I'll
Jake,
tell
you
you
didn't play?
everything.
No, give me the
Victor and I will
deets.
tell you everything.
Oh, it's
Oh,
brilliant.
dude. Yeah. So listen, like I like platformers. They're fine for me. They're not my number one choice because again, like I'm driven by narrative in my games.
Mhm.
So when PlayStation was like, hey, you want to check this game out? I was like, yeah, of course. Like, Andrea, my co-host, absolutely loves Astrobot, and I've never really had any hands-on time with it. I feel like the moment I picked up this controller, I just fell in love instantly. It feels like it's going to be, they're going after Nintendo's money. I'm just going to say
Yeah.
it. And B, it's like, it feels like it could be the next great platformer. And I mean like
Mhm.
all time great, like right up there with like all the ones you would think of. Because the controls are so good and they're so tight and so responsive. It's obviously because, like they've mastered the tech with it, with all of their little demos they've done. But it's so simple, but so charming. It felt like when I played Spyro for the first time on my
Right.
PlayStation 1 demo disc,
Shit.
when I was just like filled with awe and wonder of like, oh my God, like there's colors. There's so many colors. There's so many little like interesting things to do. There's water, there's sky, there's like little hidden nooks. So you start the levels off and you see on the top of your screen like all the little bots you have to find. And I think, Victor, because you played it, right? Kevin, did you play it? I didn't.
yes, I played it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if there's a bot that's based off of a PlayStation IP, it has the cute little symbol next to
Little
it.
symbols,
So
yeah.
So those ones are going to be harder. I found Ratchet, and then somebody next to me found Parappa the Rapper, and that was really cute.
Yeah.
So you can go through these levels and you can find the bots. I don't know, you guys, if it's absolutely necessary to find every single one of them
Nope.
to complete the level. Yeah, okay, so that's what I also love about it, is that you can just go through the platforming, and that's what I did. Anyway, so you go through these levels, there's just so much awe and wonder and nostalgia, and it just feels so good. You get these little power-ups per level that you can use, like you can get the little dog dude and you can like bash through stuff. You get a squid and it helps you float. You can get frog punching gloves, and now you can punch, which just feels so visceral and so good. I fell in love, absolutely fell in love with this game. And then what was really cool too is after the levels, there are these 2 hard levels you could try. Did y'all do those ones?
Yes.
Yeah.
Where it's not about finding the bots, it's not about playing around with mechanics. It was just how good of platforming can you do. And so you have these super chill casual levels you can roam around in, and then there's these harder levels which are so addictive because you're like, just one more try, and then once you get that timing down, man, your palms are sweaty, mom's spaghetti, and then you're like, I fucking did it. You feel so amazing about yourself. Anyway.
I couldn't finish that one where I'm skating on the platform.
Lessons?
Mm.
Would you
Oh
like
my
lessons?
goodness! Yes, can I get your video? Can you shoot me the video on how you beat those things?
Maybe.
Oh my Lord! But beautiful game, right? I kind of wondered if PlayStation had picked up some Nintendo, teammates to come and work on the game. It has that Nintendo kind of, not to throw shade at PlayStation's own teams, but it just feels like that unbelievable perfect connection that we have with Nintendo experiences.
Yeah.
Kevin, have you got another one?
Yeah, I did want to just add on to that, though. I think for that Astro feeling, I think part of it, honestly, is I believe after Team Japan was dissolved, part of that went to the team that's doing Astro. And so it has that feeling of like the kind of PS3, PSP era of some of the more experimental, weird, fun Sony.
Yes.
And so I think that's where we're getting that feeling, because we haven't seen as many of those games lately, and it's cropping back up here.
And family friendly, which is incredibly important as well, which we don't see that enough from PlayStation or Xbox. So it's great to see
Absolutely.
How was the music?
Yeah.
Because I love the music in the previous game.
Wonderful.
Yeah, I believe it's the
Wonderful.
same composition or same composer, and so you're getting a lot of like similar style, but I mean, there's still new unique tracks, and wonderful feel.
You're just grooving the whole time, and all the visual effects, like the water splashing, and you're hanging on for dear life, and Astrobot's legs are flying on the back of the flying controller and stuff. It's incredible.
Yeah. It is Playroom on a larger scale, basically. Like if you like Playroom, you are absolutely going to like this because it's just more of what you love.
I think PlayStation announced today 80 levels, and then there's more free coming via DLC later. So
yes,
I hope they lean all in. Like I absolutely number 2, easy.
Yeah. Weird that it's not a VR game too. You know, like there like some VR components. Maybe they'll do something with that because the Astrobot VR experience. I don't know if you guys all played that. One of the coolest VR games. Yeah, it's amazing. But Kevin, was something else that stood out for you?
Yes, I'm gonna cheat a little bit here and talk about 5 things at once very quickly. Did anyone else do Day of the Devs? Did anyone else do the Day of the Devs?
I didn't sit down to play. I looked at all the games and they look cool, but it was like a timing thing for me.
No, for sure, yeah. And so it was actually interesting because they had one setup that was like a dedicated appointment, but then they had another setup where you were just lightning round, like here's these 5 games, play for 10 minutes, move on, play for 10 minutes. And I've done these appointments before with them, and it's a great way of highlighting a variety of different indie games, and usually enough time to at least get the premise and get a feel for it. And in the past, when I've done those appointments, generally I'll be like, oh, I really like this one. This one was neat, but maybe not really for me. I'm not sure if I'm feeling this one. All 5 this time. All bangers for very different reasons. Wow. And also a weird emotional roller coaster just because of the types of games you were playing. I mean, there was one that, oh, geez, just total tearjerker of a game dealing with loss. And it's literally being developed by someone who... The game was written and designed by someone who passed away, and it's their friend finishing it.
Oh my God.
Called Afterlove EP. And so it's like it's soaked in what its concept is, and it comes through. And so that was a very emotional moment in the middle of, oh, by the way, here's this game where you find ways to distract yourself and play with a fidget spinner while you're waiting for the bus, and was also fantastic. I think to not rant too long about all 5 of these, one that I would want to highlight a little extra, UFO 50. Has anyone else looked at this?
It looked incredible. NES style visuals looks so freaking cool.
It is meant to be a retro collection of games from a company that does not exist. They made a fictional company called UFO, and it is a collection of 50 of their games. They are assigned in release order. They have a whole storyline of like, you can see how the design of some games evolves over time. And like, the graphics are a little better in this one that's from like 89 versus the one that came out in 85. And they're all like fully realized, at least the ones I played. I was able to get enough time to like jump between 4 different ones real quick. They felt like fully realized, like, yeah, this is just like an NES game that I never heard of. And I popped it in, and it feels like it's from that era and captures the essence so well. Amazing concept. Just 50 full games effectively, and amazing. And then there's building relationships where you're a building and you're on an island trying to date other buildings.
I love this.
You're a building trying to date other buildings?
Yeah, building relationships.
Oh my God!
Like a brick building.
Man, I can't wait to play these things.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
That sounds amazing.
Are they all coming out soon, Kevin, or do we have a long time to wait for some of these? Or
I think the majority of the ones that were at the show are planned for this year. I don't think they all had strict specific release dates. I know UFO 50 is this year because I just double checked that a bit ago, and that's I think September.
Oh, I can't wait for that.
But yeah,
what a year! This back half of 2024 is redonkulous, and then 2025 is going to be the best year of video game history, and our new Grand Theft Auto overlords will be happening then too. Jake, do you have another favorite from SGF?
The entire Blumhouse thing, the Blumhouse initiative. It feels just like a good move. They feel confident, excited. It's smart. Just if you think about it, like the way they're investing, they're sticking with what they know, but they're putting their money where their mouth is. Especially, you hear more and more. It's obviously with the economy and the industry and everything, it's hard to get investment right now. You have these really cool niche horror games getting propped up by a horror brand. It just makes perfect sense. And I got to get my hands on Fear the Spotlight, which is going to be their first release. It's like a lo-fi kind of PS1 style horror adventure. It's got a lot of good horror tropes to it. Like you're at a school at night, you're the nerdy girl, you're with the goth girl, you're going to the library to find something and play with a Ouija board. Like it's got that classicness to it. Sound design, it's like you hear the rain outside, and then the visuals. It's got this PS1 filtered, blocky style, very grainy, but it takes a second to get used to. But once it clicks, it's probably one of the best examples I've seen of that style, more because of the feeling. Like they get little things right with like flickering. Like the draw distance is so small and you see textures flickering and overlapping. And like
Did you hear did you hear the team behind it? Did you hear the story about the team behind it? It's a two-person team.
Yes.
And they're a husband and wife, and they're just a young couple that just loves this stuff, and they were so adorable. And then they made this just super dope idea. And the idea that I had coming off of that is that Sony is sitting on a gold mine with all of their PS1 games. They could just tune their classic PlayStation 1 games to work on dual stick controls with better cameras, and
I know,
just a little bit of fleshing out, and then just call them the PS1 refresh catalog or something like that, and sell them to people. They could put them on discs that work on PlayStation 5s that are shaped like PS1 games. Be insane.
Oh man, that's like you're giving them ideas now.
Oh man, it would be awesome. But that's what that game made me realize. It's like, wow, what a brilliant concept. And
so good. I loved it. And I want to say something about it that I really loved is I didn't realize this, but the game actually released on Steam in 2023. Yep.
That's
and now
true.
They're releasing it. But what's really cool, as I was looking through their Steam page, is that it's jump scare free. So they like make sure that you don't have to worry about having cheap jump scares. Which Jake, you brought this up. Like the atmospheric horror of that game was really good. Like it wasn't like terrifying or super spooky or anything, but it definitely was a good vibe, right? And so I was trying to tell this to my co-host Rihanna. She hates jump scares. I'm like, you don't have to worry about that. You just don't really see that a lot in horror games where they're like, don't worry about it. We're not gonna like get you. You can just enjoy the horror of it. So
I like the feeling, like you get the willies. And I think what I liked about this is, and I was like, ooh, they get it, is that they were not just using that PS1 style just as like a visual style, but like they were using it for the horror, because things are just far enough out of like the render distance where you can't tell if there's something. Like there's a sequence where you light some candles and it gives off a little light, but you see these blocky textures and you can't tell really what it is. Like, it's like, oh man, they get it. They're using it. It's not just style.
Yeah. It was so good. Did you guys check out a game called Parcel Core?
No.
I didn't. You told me about this while we were at the show, and I wanted to find it.
Oh God, it was so cool. It's like a fusion of Jet Grind Radio and Crazy Taxi and Tony Hawk.
Say no more.
You're basically getting assigned the idea of delivering these parcels on your BMX bike, and you're hopping over cars and riding on rails.
It goes to Google.
It's really freaking cool. It's got a Dreamcast kind of aesthetic, and it was super fun to play. I was bouncing and falling and flopping all over the place, but it was really addictive, and it was so different from everything else that we get, and it just felt like one of those games where it was always there, and then we just like Indiana Jones found it, and there it is. Like I'm really excited. I can't wait to play that one.
It looks perfect.
Yeah, it was really cool. We're running out of time, so I'm looking at the clock here. So I guess an overall kind of score on this SGF weekend, and I think we have to tie in the UB reveals and the Xbox reveals. Why don't we just get an overall score? Brittney, what would you give it out of 10?
I would say I'm thinking like a high 9 out of 10. I mean, it was just, for me, there was a lot of stuff here that just really resonated. I didn't even get to talk about Metaphor Refantasio, which is
God, that was so good.
Oh, it's so good and so wacky. And then we got the Dragon Age and then Astrobot, and I was just so pleasantly surprised. I think you take everything into consideration. The Xbox press conference, like you said at the top, the UB one, like it had a really cool deep dive into Assassin's. We didn't talk about Assassin's Creed Shadows, which is like, that looked fantastic.
That looks amazing.
There's just so much. It would have been better if I got maybe a little Resident Evil, maybe that Final Fantasy IX remake that I know was not going to happen, but like a girl's got to have her hopes and dreams. But I would say like a 9.5 for me.
Kevin, what would you say?
I feel very similar. I would say I may be slightly lower, but not much, like 8.5 to 9, like very solid weekend overall. I think, a part of maybe what I'm holding on to a bit is that there still feels a little bit like not full wide industry representation, which I would love to see just come back. It's not quite back to the E3 vibes yet, but it's getting closer each year.
Everybody should be there, right? Nintendo shouldn't now be this holdout. They should just say, look, we got something for you here as well.
Yeah,
right?
I enjoy very much that Xbox, while not necessarily directly a part of Summer Games Fest, is putting their showcase on the same weekend and around the same time. And PlayStation was like a week ahead. Nintendo, we don't know yet. Maybe next week, maybe the week after. So that's, I think, the only thing that I'm holding on to. And maybe that's a little bit of an unfair comparison, because ultimately we did get a lot of good stuff. I mean, as Brittney was saying, we weren't even able to hit all the things that we enjoyed and got excited about because there was that much to talk about.
Like
but I think there is... Oh yeah, mixtape. We didn't even
Oh,
talk about
man.
that.
Yeah.
We didn't talk about Doom. Like Doom didn't
Oh
get
my gosh,
Jesus.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah. Phantom
I
Blade
know.
Zero.
Phantom Blade Zero,
Yeah,
which was
Phantom
also
Blade Zero.
fantastic. I got to play that.
Yes,
That was my very
same.
last appointment that I snuck in.
So good.
And that was great.
I played Black Myth Wukong, and that
Oh,
was
man.
phenomenal, and it's
I wanted to get
gorgeous.
another one.
And you just feel, I mean, they're called Game Science, the team behind it, and that's exactly what you're watching. You know, there's the company that's been paying attention. They're looking at all the tech and all of what's achievable. They're going with ancient Chinese kind of storytelling and mythology, and they're interweaving it into this something that just feels magical. Like it just was, woo, it was amazing. And they
Just so
had
much.
special controllers to let us play that had a little light up logo on them, and they gave everybody that tested the game out a controller to go with, you know, with the event. So I've got this killer Black Myth Wukong controller now, which is
cool.
That's
awesome.
amazing.
Awesome.
Yeah. So Jake, what would you say? What would your sort of take on the whole event, the whole weekend be for you?
Yeah, I kind of like with Kevin, I'm kind of like, you know, in terms of like it feeling like E3, it's not there yet. So I'd say if like you're just a person at home, like how you used to take off work to like watch E3 stuff, it's still not quite like that.
No.
But if you sit on your computer and you scroll through every single thing announced, it's unbelievable. It's insane the amount of things we have coming. I am so overwhelmed as a player, as a reviewer, as a talky person. It's a lot. And I never do numbered things. You're one of the first people to ever get me on record putting a number behind something. I would say 9 out of 10. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm at a 9 for the weekend. The only thing that I would say is the as amazing as the Xbox press conference was, it sort of was right in the middle of the weekend, and it took us away from being able to get our hands on time. And I feel like the best way to do that is to either have those afterwards, like let us have the weekend to try some stuff out, so we get 3 full days of playing stuff, so we're not missing things. So you guys all get to play Black Myth Wukong. Or just to extend SGF another day, which I know is a nightmare for the people that are showing all this stuff off and all the PR people. But there is too much to kind of take in all in one fell swoop like that. It was like E3 in terms of scope and things to talk about, smashed into a much more chill, you know, really fantastic weekend where we also get to hang out with each other, which was, I think, the highlight for me too. Like as great as the games were, it was wonderful to see all of you guys and to have,
Nice
you
'cause I
know, a
don't
moment to
leave.
talk with everybody.
Right. I don't
Pardon?
leave Summer Game Fest feeling exhausted. Right. I feel
Right.
like I'm tired, of course, but I'm not frazzled. You know, it's just a much chiller vibe, and I do appreciate that about Summer Game Fest.
What is cool too is that for the people watching, listening at home, we also played things that are still under embargo.
Yeah.
So like if you're a gaming news junkie, there's still going to be some interesting previews and stuff rolling out, you know, in the next week or so. So it's kind of like a good trickle.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you guys are wonderful, and I really appreciate you taking a little bit of time to come and join me here and talk about all of this stuff. I can't wait to see all of you somewhere at that's, you know, cool, some next event. But have fun trying to keep up with all this stuff, and thank you so much for being a part of this. And thank you all for watching and listening. Remember, if you like the interviews that I put together, you can also watch them on youtube.com/EPNTV. Thanks for the thumbs up and the comments and the likes and the subscriptions. We'll see you soon. And until then, play forever.